La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You have to come into Islam. You have to accept it. When you come into Islam, the first thing which is necessary upon you is to correct your beliefs, to correct your iman. And who is Allah? Can Allah have a wife? Can Allah have children? Can Allah become human? Is Allah everywhere? Is Allah in everything? The first thing which you have to do is rectify your iman. At first, when I used to think of death, it motivated me in a bad way, because I didn't think of just dying on my bed, the father of a happy family, my children being Hafiz Quran. I thought of being shot in a nightclub or in the street in a car or something like that. I thought of being in jail, in prison, locked up for who knows how many years, maybe even dying of some illness acquired. Maybe at some point I don't even remember because I was drunk on alcohol. Now, that's compound ignorance that I started with. When you think you know and you don't know. That's a hard one to cure. It takes time, but if you're patient, you can do it. And I did it. I'm a living example. I'm a living proof that you can do it. Simple ignorance is easy. And as Muslims, we're commanded to go to people suffering from this with da'wah. Because all we're talking about is giving people who have the ability to think, who have the ability to reason, who have the ability to do right, going to these people and giving them the true information, giving them Islam, delivering the message. If you're successful, and I hope that you all are successful, then maybe Allah will open the heart of this person to Tawbah, which is the next thing I'd like to talk about. When you're ignorant and you begin to come out of your ignorance, it's not just enough to say, okay, I'm finished with that, I'm not going to. No. You have to make Tawbah from what you did. You have to, because it's necessary in order to bring down the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on you. How could you bring down the blessings of Allah upon you for all of these sins, which when you've committed all of these sins, especially when you're not even recognizing who Allah is? You're not giving Him His right. That's like you come to someone who you owe money. You owe me $500, and you bring me a $100 bottle of cologne as a gift. No, give me back my money. I'll go buy my own cologne. I don't need that from you. So this is what we're dealing with, that the person must repent. He must go back to Allah. He must recognize who his Creator is and what his Creator demands from him, what his Creator wants from him. And inshallah, when he begins to worship in the correct manner, the blessings will come down upon him. Now, the incentives to repent, I categorize them into 3 stages. And that is just remembering what you used to do, how stupid it was, how bad it was, and even what it cost you. I smoked cigarettes for maybe 10 years. Do you know how much money that is? That's ignorant. I just burned money. That's ignorant. You have to think about the punishment which is going to come. You have to think about it. You know, I did these things, and like I said, alhamdulillah, I converted to Islam, I took the Shahada, but did Allah forgive me? Did I backtrack? Do I still have that in my heart? I don't know. So you have to always be in a constant state of fear of punishment. And last thing is, realize how weak you are. See this little mosquito who's flying around here? If I were to hit him with my hand right now, he would fall down a little bit. He wouldn't even hit the ground and fly off. If any of you were to come up here in the same area and I were to hit him with my hand, you would hit the ground. I sit in the desert a lot because I was living in Qatar. So I always go out in the dunes with the Bedouins and I sit. I like the desert too much. I loved living in Mauritania. My life was like every day was Ramadan. I was in a village of nothing but ulama, faqirs, and everyone was on their best adab and trying to help each other, and there was no electricity, and I got really used to that. And I used to watch these little bugs, ants and other things, and if you were to just, with your finger like this, he would fly from here to there and get up and walk back. Imagine if I were to hit you and knock you to the second row or the third row or the fourth row. How many of you could take a hit like that? If a car were actually to just ram into you and knock you back that far, would get up and walk back? You have to realize how weak you are. And you have to realize who's protecting you, who's keeping you alive, who's sustaining you. And that'll motivate you to seek that tawbah, to seek that protection, to seek that increase from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, and you'll be successful. After you make this tawbah, and this tawbah is the most important thing that you'll ever do. There's Islam. Because the tawbah which I'm talking about, and I'll be very clear with you, the tawbah which I'm talking about, it is from a disbelief, not in action. You know, it's from a disbelief in your iman. It's like you're not worshiping Allah. So in order to make this tawbah and to have this tawbah, there's only one thing that can get you this tawbah. And that is the shahada, if you're a non-Muslim. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You have to come into Islam. You have to accept it. And that is not the statement of the shahadatain, that is the kalimat. That wasn't the shahadatain which I recited to you. So when you come into Islam, the first thing which is necessary upon you is to correct your beliefs, to correct your iman. You have to begin to witness things from an Islamic perspective. You have to have a belief in Allah and who is Allah and what is possible for Allah, what is not possible for Allah. Can Allah have a wife? Can Allah have children? Can Allah become human? Is Allah everywhere? Is Allah in everything? The first thing which you have to do is rectify your iman and your character. No more of this idle talking and gossiping and backbiting. No more slander. No more envy. Oh, I want what he has. No more conceit. I'm better than this one. And pride. You have to begin to get away from these things. This is the first thing. Afterwards, you have to begin, as I said, to worship Allah as He's asked in the salat. Because Islam has 5 pillars, and they are the shahada, the salat, the ritual prayer that the Muslims do 5 times a day, fasting the month of Ramadan, whether it be 29 or 30 days, making hajj to the house of Allah, which is established in the Bible and in the Quran. And in the Bible it's Becca. And the last is paying your zakat. If you have an excess of money, which you've held onto for a year, you pay your zakat. You also, getting back to the 6 pillars of Iman, you have to have a correct understanding of the angels. What's possible for the angels and what's not possible for the angels. And most importantly, and I'm saying this to non-Muslims, you have to know what's an angel and what's a jinn. Because Allah created another creature called the jinn. I don't want to swear because I don't do that for minor things, but I can tell you that I really believe that I and many of my friends were taking waswas from shayateen, from jinn, from evil things which we could not see that motivate you away from the remembrance of Allah. You have to believe in all of Allah's books and accept them. The Quran being the last and final revelation sent down from Allah by Jibreel to the last of the prophets, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to believe in all of the messengers from Adam. We'll go Adam all the way up to Nuh and the flood. And from then on, we'll go to Abraham. We'll go on to Nabi Lut, Ayub, which is Job, the patient one, Moses, Jesus, alayhi salam, all of them, alayhim salam. And last and not final but least, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to believe in, as I said, the judgment day. That Allah sees you. Allah is aware of what you're doing and what you're not doing. And that you will be called to account. Not only for what you're doing, but for what you're not doing. Imagine if I were to give you some money or something and sent you on a mission to do something, go get me something from the store. And when you came back, you didn't have it. And I said, why don't you have what I sent you to the store for? I gave you well, I spent the money here, or I spent the money there. And so I don't have what you asked me for. Allah has given you time to do certain things, and you have to use that time correctly. So for those of you who are not praying, you should begin praying. For those of you who are not fasting, you should begin fasting. And you have to also believe in Qadr. So now you're a Muslim, alhamdulillah. You're on the right path. You have to seek knowledge. And when I say knowledge, I mean beneficial knowledge. So I'm talking about knowledge which is Tawheed.
Let's come under the shade of the scholars.
So the issue is a problem of knowledge.
Asim Al-Hakim.
Why do people do bid'ah?
Imam Malik said, whoever claims there is a good innovation in the deen,
Salim Al-Amri.
he is accusing that Prophet Muhammad did not convey the message.
Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad.
If you know that the Prophet ﷺ did something and I do something else, you have to follow the Prophet ﷺ. Don't follow me.
Abdul Rahim McCarthy.
But if each one believes his goal is to please Allah, to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Abdul Rahim Green.
I think this really is to do with your internal state.
Where does the Quran and Sunnah point to?
Muhammad Al-Sharif.
We have to follow what Allah and His Messenger said.
Let's imbibe from these scholars the fruitful solutions for the problems of the world.
Which one we would take and which one we would leave?
Question to every Muslim.
In the shade of the scholars. Tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 12:30 p.m. India on Peace TV. He faces.
I have two questions.
He listens.
My question is about the beard, about Imam Mahdi.
What other people believe in.
He answers.
So number one is the help of Allah.
He satisfies in the light of glorious Quran and authentic Hadith.
If Allah helps you, believe me, you have to get success.
Catch Dr. Zakir.
Then we have the next call, please.
To get convincing and valid answers in Dial Dr. Zakir every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 9:30 a.m. India on Peace TV. Islamic International School presents Spreading the Truth, clarifying the message.
Islam requires mutual relationship not only among Muslims but also with the respect of other people.
Focusing on the ultimate goal.
We are not going to stay here forever, but our real home is Jannah.
Treading the path of real success.
Every Muslim should remember the justice of Islam.
Watch presentations by the young orators of Islamic International School.
I stand before you
Maryam Armar, Saad Siddiqui, Ammar Allahpur, Tasneem Dal, Misbah Sayyad, Sara Noori and Farik Naik.
Dua is a supplication. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger.
Watch the generation next on their mission in Path Setters. Next on Peace TV.
You have to have a correct understanding of the angels. What's possible for the angels and what's not possible for the angels. And most importantly, and I'm saying this to non-Muslims, you have to know what's an angel and what's a jinn. Because Allah created another creature called the jinn. I don't want to swear because I don't do that for minor things, but I can tell you that I really believe that I and many of my friends were taking waswas from shayateen, from jinn, from evil things which we could not see that motivate you away from the remembrance of Allah. You have to believe in all of Allah's books and accept them. The Quran being the last and final revelation sent down from Allah by Jibreel to the last of the prophets, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to believe in all of the messengers from Adam. We'll go Adam all the way up to Nuh and the flood. And from then on, we'll go to Abraham. We'll go on to Nabi Lut, Ayub, which is Job, the patient one, Moses, Jesus, alayhi salam, all of alayhim salam. And last and not final, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to believe in, as I said, the judgment day. That Allah sees you. Allah is aware of what you're doing and what you're not doing. And that you will be called to account. Not only for what you're doing, but for what you're not doing. Imagine if I were to give you some money or something and sent you on a mission to do something, go get me something something from the store. And when you came back, you didn't have it. And I said, why don't you have what I sent you to the store for? I gave you well, I spent the money here, or I spent the money there. And so I don't have what you asked me for. Allah has given you time to do certain things, and you have to use that time correctly. So for those of you who are not praying, you should begin praying. For those of you who are not fasting, you should begin fasting. And you have to also believe in Qadr. So now you're a Muslim, alhamdulillah. You're on the right path. You have to seek knowledge. And when I say knowledge, I mean beneficial knowledge. So I'm talking about knowledge which is Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. You have to know about, again, character. And then you want to acquire what I call ilm yaqeen. And ilm yaqeen, I'll say this is like a person who sees some smoke and he smells something and he says, there's a barbecue going on over there. Now then you'll get to a point of ayn al-yaqeen, where from the smoke and from the smell, you actually enter into the gate of the yard and you actually see the food on the fire, which you're smelling. This is ayn al-yaqeen. There's a barbecue going on here, there's going to be good food. And you'll get to the point of haqq al-yaqeen, where you're eating the food. You're tasting the food. It's delicious. So that pretty much covers the process. And I know it was a little dry, but I think it's very important just to let those of you who are Muslims know about the process. Now I'll tell you a little about the actuality of my conversion. And I hope this will wake you up if I put you to sleep. I was 25 years old. I had moved away from Texas to California to get away from my friends. Just that simple. They were bringing me down. I had to get away from them, staying there. I'd never be able to avoid them, so I left. I got to California, I changed my entire life. I started over. I even became a vegetarian. Not just a vegetarian, I became a vegan. I didn't use anything from an animal. Nothing living on this planet was going to be harmed because of me. Not so much like Jainism or anything, but just vegan. In my diet and I didn't even wear leather shoes. I got back into university, which I had been out of now for maybe 2 or 3 years. And I became active in campus politics. At that time, the big thing was affirmative action. I was working with the National Organization of Women on one march. They came in kind of late. I wish they had started a little earlier. And that really got me politicized. We started doing things about all kind of other issues, police brutality. There was an American brother from the 70s. His name was Elmo Geronimo Pratt. They call him Jajaga. Most people don't know anything about him. He was a Black Panther. This man spent 27 years in prison, innocent, framed, in my belief. So I began campaigning to get him released from prison. I was like, alhamdulillah, I saw him released from prison after 27 years. I began doing campaigns on what we call plebiscite theory, or referendums, like Kashmir, Philistine. I became very educated with the process of how to make a state. out of nothing, out of conflict, how to make peace. Like I said, I was out for justice. I wasn't out for it, I was out for justice. Alhamdulillah, the Muslim Student Union at UC Berkeley decided they were going to do a conference on how to do dawah on American campuses. I decided to attend. This was the 50th year of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And I was living with Jews. And they're still my friends. I'm sorry to say, I'm not sorry to say actually. They were good people. They had some bad faults and they weren't really practicing Jews. They were more secular Jews. But alhamdulillah, they treated me like family. And I was living with them, and so I decided, let me go to this conference and see what these people are talking about. The Jewish Student Union is saying it's a birthday, 50 years of statehood. And the Palestinians are saying, no, it's not, it's 50 years of occupation. So I went to hear this talk, specifically to hear this one Palestinian speaker, Arab. I don't know anything about Arabs except Sinbad movies. I don't know anything about Muslims. Really, I didn't. When I studied in high school, they told us about Turks, Ottomans, all these other terms which they used to hide. And they never talked about the Muslim empires or the Muslim caliphates or... So my outlook on Arabs wasn't that great anyway. The guy who invited me was an Arab, and I didn't know he was a Muslim or anything else. I admired him a lot though. He had really good character. Really good character. So I went to this conference, and the first person to come on the stage, lo and behold, was a 50-year-old, slim-built, white, British convert to Islam. Instantly, my mind was twisted. This isn't an Arab. This isn't an African. Some people, they equate false sex in Islam with Islam. So I said, what's going on here? This man began speaking Arabic fluently, reciting beautiful verses from the Quran, and then translating them on the spot into English. The first time I ever heard the Quran. And he talked about human rights and social justice. And that's what I was into. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. He got off the stage. Then came another brother onto the stage. Now this one, okay, this one's an African American. Yeah, I'm used to black Muslims. Okay, I've seen them before. Also coming from Washington, D.C. And again, he began to talk about the history of America and social struggle and the military-industrial police I don't know what you would call it, configuration of America. Talking about the injustices and the rates of incarcerations of different groups, and that's what I'm talking about. That's what I know. There's this guy, Geronimo Pratt. Of course he knew him. And then finally came the third, this Palestinian brother. And again, he spoke from a political sense, which is what I wanted to hear. But he gave a little bit more of juice on from all three of them now, I had a vision of the Allah, what he wanted from us, his Prophet ﷺ, and what was contained in this book, the Quran, which I had never... Actually, I had seen a Quran when I was young, because my stepfather had a Quran in the house. He was a master mason, but I didn't know what it was. I really, really was impressed with these three speakers, not in any sense for religious purposes, but for political purposes. And I began to sit with these Muslims. The next day even, I went back to that conference, and I sat with those Muslims, and they were wearing turbans and thobes, and they were Americans, and they were Somalian, and they were this, and they were that, and the brothers were over here, and the sisters were over there, and they went outside to pray the Asr prayer. And I thought they were going to go for a march. And I'm not part of this conference, I'm just a guest. I'll watch. And they prayed right in front of me. The first time I ever saw Muslims pray. It was Asr, so it was silent. All I heard was Allahu Akbar and such. After that prayer, they came to me and they asked me, why haven't you prayed with us? They came to find out I wasn't a Muslim. They did a very intelligent thing. Rather than anger me, upset me, or say something that might put me off, they went and got someone qualified to talk to me. That brother, he came and he talked to me, And alhamdulillah, in 5 minutes, I was a Muslim. Allahu Akbar. So I left school and I began to study Islam. And that's what took me on all of those journeys. But the first journey was the journey of the self, from that pride, that American pride of I know everything, I'm the right, I this. It was the first thing was dealing with that ignorance, that compounded ignorance, where you don't even want to accept that there's something else. And coming to Islam, inshallah. Thank you for your patience with me. I thank the brothers from Peace TV, the Islamic Research Foundation, especially Dr. Zakir Naik. I thank the Indian government for giving me the visa, Musa for doing an excellent job with my intro and also being a good brother to me for these past couple days. And I thank you all for attending. Inshallah, this was beneficial. And inshallah, there will be more. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.